Okay, we're back with the 20 and 20 podcast. Our next guest, we're thrilled to have him. He's a 15-year NBA vet, a three-time world champion as a member of the Chicago Bulls, and he's got a book out now entitled "Through the Fire: A Memoir of Trauma and Loss, Basketball and Triumph." Mr. Scott Williams, thanks a lot, Scott, for joining us.
T.O.
Thank you,
Kermit,
Scott.
thank you guys for having me on the 2020 podcast. I'm excited because I my only, I guess, real connection to the game outside of coaches is LeBron James, who was my teammate my final year in Cleveland in 2005, who just put up a 20 and 20 game a couple days ago. So the
Yeah.
timing's perfect. I'm a big champion of LeBron. I think he has handled himself extremely well as the face of the NBA, and I couldn't be more proud of the player and the man that he is.
Well, you know what though? I try to tell people it's amazing the ability, the physical ability he still has at that age. I just can't imagine playing that many years, that many games, and still having those great jumping legs, jumping ability, blocking shots, dunking on everybody. It's amazing. What do you think? What is the reason that for that now, Scott?
He
Because you
built it
started.
pretty special, that's for sure, Kermit. There's no doubt about that. There's only a couple cats that come along in our generation, our lifetime rather, that can do the things on the court that a LeBron James and a Michael Jordan and a Magic Johnson and all the other greats of the Hall of Fame can do. And I remember my rookie year with him when he came down the lane. Defensive player that I was, and stepped in the lane instinctively to draw a charge, and he hit me square between in the chest. And I
Mm,
thought, oh no, we both went to the floor. Don't tell me I've just hurt the franchise player.
yeah.
And the training camp, and he popped right up and trotted on back down the floor. And when I tried to get up, I saw stars dart in front of my eyeballs. Like I said, my thinking shifted real quickly. Oh, please tell me he didn't hurt me in my 15th year in the league. So it was I knew right then and there he was a solid young man at 19 years old, and that he had a bright future. I didn't know he was going to go on to lead the NBA in scoring, though. I mean, I probably would have been a general manager when it came to that, but he has been a fantastic talent. He's always added, early part of his stages of his career, he added things to his game every summer. He was a gym rat. He had a thirst to be the best, unlike any other player I had seen since my rookie year in Michael Jordan. So, all NBAer, first team All NBA, that for sure, All Star player, a Hall of Famer. I don't know if I saw that leading the league in and scoring title. I can't go and say I had that type of vision for the young man, but very proud of his success.
Yeah, I'm telling you. The funny thing is that people don't realize I tried to recruit you to Stanford University when I was the assistant coach there. Came
That's
to
right.
your house and said, come on to Stanford. But you went on to North Carolina. But first of all, tell us, what was your decision to go to North Carolina as opposed to other schools that were recruiting you?
Well, and I do remember that. I was wondering if you would have remembered that, because I
Oh,
really
yeah.
had a big interest in going to Stanford. It was right. I was a California kid, right up the highway, so to speak. I wasn't getting as much love from UCLA that where I really always wanted to go. Being a Southern California kid, I toted a blue and yellow book bag to school since I was like about a fourth grader. But they kind of bungled the recruiting. One thing that you didn't do that Dean Smith from North Carolina did do is he invited my mother to come with me on my official campus visit. And she jumped
Oh.
on that opportunity and fell in love with it. So he was a little craftier than you were, Kermit. So I have to give him
Now you
credit.
know.
Well, tell us about Dean Smith now. Since you were there, I mean, he's so legendary.
Yeah.
Um, they said he's the only one that could hold Michael Jordan down in scoring because he didn't, the offense, the different offenses. What was it like going to North Carolina before getting to your pro career?
It was the best thing ever for me, I'll tell you quite honestly. And I write about this in my book, Through the Fire, just came out last month in March. how Coach Smith was like a father figure to me. I lost my parents to a murder suicide just at the start of my sophomore year, the first day of practice. He knocked on my dormitory dorm room one morning around 7:30 in the morning, and I thought I had screwed up. I thought I'd missed a class. You know, when my roommate told me Coach Smith's here for you, I was like, oh Lord, what did I do? I'll be running to the golf course and back with a weighted vest for the rest of the season. But you know, he stepped in. He had promised my mother that he would look out for me 3,000 miles away from home. I was his first recruit west of the Mississippi. And true to his word, he did. I remember days that I thought the best thing for me might be to sit out the season rather, and you know, go back to California and be a little closer to some family. And he said no. He wanted me there close to him so he could keep an eye on me and make sure that I stayed on track to my goals of getting a college degree, my dreams of being the best basketball player I could be and possibly going on to play in the NBA. And it worked because, you know, even the nights that I didn't sleep or I was hitting the beers too hard that night before, trying to escape some of the pain, that he didn't take it easy on me in practice. You know,
No.
he worked me and my teammates so hard, and having to lock in on what he was teaching and the physical demands of just competing at that level of college athletics for, you know, 2.5 hours a day. It was therapeutic for me in a way. It was my escape from some of the other outside, you know, forces and demons and trauma that I was trying to have to deal with. And being with my teammates and grabbing a burger up on Franklin Street or catching a movie was everything that I needed. So, and I don't even know how much they even realized that, you know, they were a source of support for me at the time. They were just being part of the Carolina family. And that is the culture that Coach Smith, I guess, established there. He guys from New York and California, from the South, and, you know, Joe Wolf from the Midwest and Wisconsin, guys from London, England. So we were so many people from different parts of the area, all far away from home. We all became one another's brothers. And that tradition has carried on to Coach Guthridge, who replaced Coach Smith, Coach Roy Williams, and now Hubert Davis. So very excited to be who I recruited, helped recruit to the University of North Carolina, like you were trying to get to me. So I feel connected to the Carolina basketball program for over 65 years.
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
I didn't realize, you know, the funny thing is though, is that did you guys win any? I should have read more about you because I said I know him. Did you guys win any NCAA championships when you were there?
That's probably my biggest regret as a basketball player. The one hole that I think I have in my career. I never played the game to win individual awards. I always played for the team competition, trying to win the ultimate prize in high school. It was the state championship. I'm proud to say that Glenn A. Wilson High School in 1986 accomplished that feat. Go Wildcats. You know, and obviously in the pros, my first 3 years winning an NBA championship, which is still wild to me here as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of that three-peat, that 93 championship this year. I don't think there's going to be a reunion. We'll get into that later. But the one hole that I have is never having made a Final Four. Been number one teams in the country, won undefeated in the Atlantic Coast Conference regular season, won the conference tournament, and those were all great accomplishments. But I would have liked to experience the pageantry and the notoriety of getting to a Final Four.
Well, so along with being a Carolina guy and obviously having such a tremendously horrific situation that you had to deal with, and then having the support and that, like, that brotherhood that you talked about from whether it was your teammates and then the support of your coaches and so forth, being part of that fraternity going forward, my understanding is that Jordan talked to this upper management of the Bulls to try to maybe take a look at you when you went undrafted.
True story. So I wasn't, but I almost screwed that up because, you know, being a North Carolina guy, I thought it'd be easy to slide on down the road to Charlotte, only a couple hours away, because I played against J.R. Reed, who they drafted the year before at North Carolina. in practice and so forth. We were teammates. They had Kenny Gaddison and a couple other guys on the squad. And I went, I think I got a good shot of making that young franchise, being a Carolina guy too, feel a little feather in my cap as well. But they failed me on my physical. So that afternoon, I had a bad shoulder. I wasn't drafted, so they failed me. And I'm like, well, everyone knows my shoulder's bad. But anyway, right. I get on a plane later that afternoon and go to Chicago for an opportunity to sign a contract to make their summer league roster. So, but Jordan had put a call in to Jerry Krause to pique his interest as we were playing in a charity event in Greensboro for a bunch of campers that Fred Whitfield had gathered together. They were kind of underprivileged kids, couldn't really afford camp, so he'd host them. And then on the last day camp, they'd have a game, and Jordan and Fred been real tight, still tight to this day at the Hornets. He invites some of the NBA guys and some local college guys. So my roommate, Jeff Denny, told me about this game. I was like, well, if I'm going to compete against NBA level talent, I got to get some practice against them. And I had played in LA a couple of times at UCLA against Larry Spriggs and some other Laker players over the course of the summer, but it had been a while. And so I needed to see where I measured up from a high school player to now a guy that's getting ready to step into his professional career. And they gave me a good game. I was very lucky that J.R. Reed played, because he gave me a good physical, strong game, which is what Jordan had insisted on anyway prior to us taking the court in the locker room. And I didn't dominate in any way, but I certainly wasn't mismatched. I held my own. I think I battled hard, and I got a ball late in the game while we were trailing and found number 23 in the corner, and he knocked down the game winner. So I think it was kind of the right place, right time. As he's leaving the arena, he makes a call to Jerry Krause and says, I think we should give Williams a look-see.
That's good. That's great. That's a great story.
Yeah.
And real quick, I remember you dealing with the shoulder issue and coming out a couple of times in the playoffs on that first run your rookie year. How long did you have to deal with that?
Well, it's funny. I was very fortunate in Chicago to be with some pros, and that was the best thing about Charlotte Feldman, the physical, because I got to play with true professionals and John Paxson, Bill Cartwright, of course, Michael Jordan, Craig Hodges. Those guys taught me how to be a pro. They also were a good support system with big brothers for me. Stacey King, Horace Grant, Will Perdue. I'd have problems in practice where my shoulder would sublux or dislocate and cause me a bunch of pain. And they started learning how to pick up on it, because that shoulder would just drop down, and they'd be like, "Come on, get on out of there," and then they'd come in and sub in for me, and I try to work it back into place, standing on the sideline. Right, I didn't want the trainer to know about it half the time, and I think he started picking up on it after a while. But I battled that shoulder my whole rookie year and had it fixed out in Los Angeles at the Curlin Job Clinic. Dr. Joe, I'm sure you remember him, Kermit.
Oh yeah, Curlin Job.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He fixed my shoulder. I never had a problem with my right shoulder ever again. In fact, he told me at the time I'd get 20 years out of it. I was like, well, I can't play 20 years in the NBA, so I'll be blessed. And then here was back in October. I was moving from Austin back to Phoenix and tried to lift a duffel bag out of the backseat of the car and ripped my shoulder up. That's it all winter. I got 32 years. And he said I get 20. I got 32 years out of it. But I didn't need surgery again. But it did cost me a whole golf season out here in Phoenix. That's for sure.
So who was the coach of Chicago when you got there, real quick?
It was Phil Jackson.
Phil Jackson was the head coach. He's in his second year. And then if you remember a guy named Tex Winter, he was kind of the architect of the triangle offense. Yeah. And then Johnny Bach was the defensive guru who unleashed Pippen and Jordan on the NBA. And he had pretty good sitters, and Cartwright and Horace Grant was an active power forward. So he was kind of the defensive guy. And Jim Clements, he was our next assistant on that bench. So I was very blessed, not only with the players that I play with, but the quality of coaching that I got from North Carolina, then 4 years in Chicago with that group that they had assembled there. I really felt like I got a good taste of the basketball. It's called basketball IQ now. They throw that around a lot like popcorn. But I did get a good sense of that from college and the pros. And even in high school, our high school coach, Mike Lowe, at Wilson High School. He didn't just roll the balls out to a talented basketball team. He taught us a lot about game planning, scheming, X's and O's, time and score. Those types of things all helped me throughout the rest of my career.
I think you were very fortunate to be, you saw the better side of the NBA as opposed to some of those poor players that were on losing teams year after year after year. What was it like traveling with that circus that you guys had when you guys were really good? What was that like?
It was pretty cool, man. I'm not gonna lie. As a young player, not getting drafted, to step into that atmosphere. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a member of the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. But from sports, I think this was probably about the closest you could probably get to it, because there's only 12 guys on the squad. It's not like football. You're rolling 57 guys on a road trip or whatever. But when we go out on the road, everybody knew who we were. If you were getting some minutes, or even if you were wearing that red and black, they knew who you were, and it was a fun thing to be. I guess I don't want to say villain in the city that you went to, because there was sometimes more fans of the Chicago Bulls and the celebrity of Michael Jordan than there were the Cleveland or Minnesota was a new franchise. So it was kind of a trip that we'd have, probably somewhere between 40 and 60% of the arena cheering for us when we were out on the road, which is pretty a wild thing, in itself. But being in Chicago, being in that sports town, that market, winning championships, it was great. I don't think a day went by, and here I am. I scored 2.5 points and 2 rebounds my rookie year, and people buying me drinks out at the bar. So it was a pretty cool man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One time though, I was riding my bike. I had a bike, and I would ride up to the Cubs games up in Wrigley Field. And one cab driver got so excited that he almost took me out trying to say hello to me when I was on my bike. That was about the only time it got a little scary, a little hairy. But other than that, I enjoy it. I just tell them I'm kind of a man of the people. I love talking hoops, talking sports. So, very approachable in bars. So I loved every aspect of it. It was kind of odd to me as I bounced around the league on, I guess, some teams that weren't so good, like you said, Kerber. Other teams that had won 18 games over the course of the season. Ain't no fun. But
no.
And guys are just angry all the time, right? They don't want to be approached by anybody, especially anybody talking a little trash. So I had some guys and some teammates I played with that didn't know how to handle it. I said, generally, if you're polite, you're nice, and you give somebody a short period of time to tell you a story or to introduce themselves or their child, then you leave them with a warm and fuzzy, and that's kind of how I approach it.
Well, how was it? I mean, as far as obviously when you come out of college and right at the top, you get to contribute to 3 championships in your first 3 years, when a lot of guys don't get any. That must have been great. But how was it winning the first one in LA?
Well, for me, it was extra special. When you go as an undrafted player, at least back in 1990, it might be a little different now, but your odds of making a roster and sticking the entire season are pretty slim. I don't know the statistic, but I don't think there's too many guys back then that could do it. So not getting a lot of time over the first half of the season, learning the system, gaining confidence in my teammates and my coaching staff, me gaining confidence in myself. It took a while to try to break into that regular rotation. But by midway in the season, certainly to the final third of the season, I was firmly in that rotation where the team knew that they could count on me, and I was playing some of my best basketball in the playoffs. So when we got to the Detroit Pistons, who had they had knocked out the Bulls in the previous 3 playoffs, I was one of the first bigs off the bench. And that was a pretty cool feeling, because all of training camp, all we heard about was how we had to have the best record in the Eastern Conference, and we can't beat the Pistons on the road in a Game 7. So being in that moment and being relied upon on my teammates and delivering to the coaching staff and the fan base, that was huge for me. So we go on and play the Lakers, a team I idolized growing up. As much as I loved the Bruins, I was a bigger Laker fan You know, I grew up with Showtime LA in the 80s, watching Magic and Jamal Wilkes and James Worthy and obviously Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I go on and on, you know, naming all the Hall of Famers that came out of that era. And it was surreal to be out there now battling these dudes that I used to sneak down from the upper levels of the Great Western Forum to try to get closer to the court because
Yeah,
they couldn't afford no good tickets. We were
oh,
way up there. We could dust the ceiling and got a discount while we were up
yeah.
there.
And
So
they didn't have a camera or excuse me, a place where you could watch the games on television. You know, the big
Right.
no,
screens
there
and
was
everything.
no like lounges or bars you could hang out or nothing like that. And they
Well,
didn't jump
nothing like
on.
that back
It was
then.
like dot
Yeah,
matrix back in the day, right? We didn't have nothing
Oh,
like that. So you
I
could barely
remember
see
that.
the court, let alone hear the whistle when it would blow.
Oh
So
my goodness.
so being on that floor, a place that I'd sat so many times in the stands and watched those guys perform, was very special to me. And to win in Los Angeles and have some family there, um, it was bittersweet because it was a dream of my mother's for me to play for the Lakers and win a championship. I remember my driveway, having a hoop in the driveway, having a ball in my hand late at night. You know, it was almost dark, almost couldn't see the rim, and counting down 3-2. Williams on the right side, he's got the ball. Lakers down by 2. You know, calling doing that whole thing. You know, he hit the jump shot to win the championship. And so now I'm, you know, in that locker room, and I'm happy, but I got tears as well streaming down my face because I wish my mama would have been there to take part in that moment. But it was nice to win that championship. I realized how far I had come from undrafted, shoulder dislocations, not playing, all the things that I had to overcome to make it to that moment just came flooding out and releasing me.
Well, I tell you, I mean, that's something else. And you had 2 more championships after that. So you were spoiled though too.
I know. I think about guys like, you know, Karl Malone or Patrick Ewing, these Hall of Famers, the greats of the greats that, you know, just got bested by Jordan, you know, time and time again. And I feel very fortunate. I never take it for granted that I was in the right place at the right time.
Well, tell me about Michael's mindset. It had to be something special because you know what? I think a lot of us were like that. It used to come on TBS, right? What was that, TO? That would come nationwide. We could watch all the Chicago Bull
Oh,
games.
Oh,
WGN.
WGN.
Oh, WGN. And I
Yes.
would watch those. I mean, but after watching the Bulls play, I'd watch other games. I said, well, this is like the JV. I was so used to watching the
Like
excellence
excellence, yeah.
and for the effort that you guys put out every single game. When you guys lost, Michael and all the guys weren't going on the hugging the other players like they do
Right.
nowadays.
I know
Uh,
I feel very fortunate to have watched Scott and the whole Bulls at that time when I was a kid. I never watched a game and was like, oh, they're not even trying.
oh,
But I see that all the time now.
oh, yeah. Sometimes,
Yeah,
the
you
thing
see a
is,
lot of brother-in-law basketball in the NBA. It's unfortunate. I don't want to beat on the current guys because they're extremely talented. But
Yeah.
I think at some point in time, the focus has shifted during the course of during the regular season that guys want their bags, right? Like all I ever talk about is you get paid the first and the 15th, and they play soft and make sure that one, they don't get hurt or hurt anybody else. Where we didn't play like that back in the day,
oh,
Kurt, and it was probably even tougher because you were a few years before me. The way the power forwards and the centers used to have to bang down low, you couldn't get labeled as soft if you wanted to play in the pivot. That was 100% sure. But Jordan, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, when I got to the Bulls, I have never ever, and I get goose pimples on my skin just thinking about now the intensity at which this dude approached training camp. I mean, he didn't play like he was a 6-time scoring champion and going to be getting ready to be an MVP of the league and all defensive play. Dude played like he was on a 10-day contract. That's how hard he worked in every drill that we had, and he led by example, and everybody else got in line with that. If you weren't ready to compete when you stepped on that floor, be it whatever we were going to do, he'll let you know about it in a not so nice way sometimes too. Some people called him a tyrant. I don't know if you guys saw the Last Dance, a 10-part
Oh, sure.
documentary.
wonderful. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, That's what it was. I mean, he was that intense all the time. I mean, the dude that they showed, talking about Rodman going to Vegas with Carmen Electra, and seeing how that's going to play out, that would not have happened in the training camp in 1990. Let me tell you that right now. He was hell bent, and I mean hell bent on winning a championship. Our practices were wars, and that's back when you could bang twice a day and no time limits. So Phil Jackson had us out there just revved up as high as Michael wanted to go, and it made us a better team. 100% made us a better team. Had he approached it where he was taking some time off, other guys would have approached it the same way, and we would not have been a successful group that we were.
Oh my goodness. I tell you, I look forward to, and I'm just like you, because I'm an ex NBA player. I'm very careful what I'm saying because NBA was great to me. And it was great to us because of the health plans and everything else they have for us now.
The
So you have
pension's good too, Kermit.
it's unbelievable, the insurance, everything that they give us. I appreciate
He
it.
talks about it all the time.
I'm telling you, you go there, you don't pay for anything.
That's like
You
great.
do have to pay a little.
People can't believe when I tell
vision.
them about my insurance plan. They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, gotta do anything."
No, vision. You have to pay a little bit for vision and a little bit for dental, maybe $40 a month. But
Yeah,
everything else is paid for. I mean,
Right.
completely paid for. And you know what? And they're just getting better and better. But what you're saying is that we played hurt when I played
oh,
because we weren't making that kind of money, and you played hurt. I mean, it's just you're going to be. It's not we're not like football where we were really hurt, but you know, a lot of games I shouldn't have played.
oh,
And I
100%.
think I had like 200 straight games without missing a game, but
Wow.
I should have missed maybe 25 because I was in pain. But because I was on a pretty good team, a lot of times, not like you, but I was on some pretty good teams with great players. I think I played with 13 Hall of Famers. So
Wow.
I had a lot of leaders. And when Jerry West said he was my teammate and my coach, then I had Kareem. Then I had Havlicek and Dave Bing, Dave Cowan. Just go down the list. And what they told me to do, I did. If they say stay here, set me a pick, I exactly. You know what it is like that when you have a superstar telling you what to do, you look at them more than you look at the coach for
That's right.
acceptance.
Yeah.
You just do. I mean, because you want Michael Jordan to say, "Hey, good job, good job." And
100%.
you don't want him to say you stunk tonight. He probably would tell you that.
Right. You
And
messed up 3 plays, missed your rotation, forgot to screen for me on that last play, and he'll let you know about it too. There's a video, I can't remember, one of those like championship videos, and he gives this look, and I went, "Oh, that was to me." I totally remember that because I was out of position, and he started pointing his finger at me and gave me this look like, "You better get your butt over there, lickety split, or we gonna get that buzzer to ring." But yeah,
well,
that was a day back. Kermit, you touched on. I mean, I got the cortisone shots in the knees so I could get out there and play. Play with my shoulder dislocating in the first half, go play the second half. Uh, you did what you had to do to stay in that rotation, to keep your minutes, and more importantly, because you knew that you were contributing to the overall to the team's success. And that, I think, somehow, I don't know how, but I don't see it at the same level of commitment from the current players. And I love going to the game. I have not missed a game that I've been in town for to watch Katie and the Suns. And they're undefeated when I go to a game, by the way.
but
So
he's only lost one game though.
I got told the new owner he got to get me on that charter when they go to Denver to start this next round if they want to get one up there. But it's been fun in the playoffs to see more of a, I guess, intensity,
Yes.
desire from the players that we carried throughout the course of an entire season.
Yeah.
And it even got more, intense in the playoffs. But it's good to see them trying to get back to some of that '90s style basketball, working it in low a little bit, attacking the basket, knocking down the Suns. They knocked down mid-range jump shots, a game that I'm very familiar with. But Devin Booker is amazing. Not only shooting the threes, but getting to the rack, but his mid-range game, KD's mid-range game, Chris Paul, the center Aiton, he's not shooting threes. He'll shoot the mid-range jumper as well, but he can play down around the basket. So it's fun for me to watch this team because it reminds me of a group of guys that I played with.
I tell you, what you're saying is correct. In the playoffs, once again, I'm not gonna. I don't watch that many NBA games during the regular season. Now, if Michael was playing or superstars were
Mhm.
playing, I'll turn the game on. I like John Morant. I really like the Greek Freak, though. I like everything about him. I mean, class guy. You can tell he's a good, not only a good player, he's a good human being. And when he got hurt the other day, and that's why I'm trying to tell people, Miami is good, but if he was healthy, it wouldn't be 3-1 or whatever it is right now.
It was,
He wouldn't let that happen because, in my opinion, Miami doesn't have a center that
Yeah.
can check him. They don't have anybody close, and Lopez is playing well, so they got some good big guys down there. But shoot, I'm telling you, I enjoy watching the games now because they're playing so much harder. Even the Lakers, who weren't playing very hard at the beginning of the or the middle of the game, I mean middle of the season, they're playing hard now. And forgive me for not knowing the kid from Gonzaga. He's half Japanese, half black. He starts, he plays for the
Oh,
Lakers.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Hachimura.
he is good.
Yes,
He
sir.
he is good. That man can play.
Yes.
Where was he before? Why wasn't he playing where he was?
Yeah, he
In
was out in
Washington.
Washington, I believe, and
Oh my
you're right.
goodness.
Carroll was kind of like one of those guys that was left on a bad team that had some skills, and probably the role that he was playing there didn't fit the best part of his game. And I want to, before I talk about that though, I want to go back to what you said about Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee because I love that kid. I had him his rookie year. I was an assistant coach on that team that his rookie year. And he was the first guy in the gym, last guy to leave. And if he was playing shooting competition and he was getting beat by Chris Middleton and some of the other guys that we had on the squad, you had to take the balls and lock them up because he would not leave and keep challenging guys to more and more competitions. And you knew he had a game the next day. So you just loved that passion on him. Didn't see he was going to go on to win 2 MVPs either, but I knew he was going to be a solid player in a sleep because of his competitiveness at that next level and thriving to get better as an 18-year-old. I wish he had those muscles that he's got now. We wouldn't have got fired. we would have won more than 15 games. but
Hey,
He for
yeah,
like 50
exactly.
pounds of muscle.
but you know what
Yeah.
though? I tell Tio, Karan Butler, maybe was he there coaching or
Butler was
whatever?
with me. Yeah, he's with me.
Well,
Yeah.
Karan told me when he was a rookie, when Greek Freak was a rookie, he says he came to me, he says, Kermit, that boy's going to be real good. He says he's not there yet, but that boy is going to be real good. That's what Karan told me. About 2, 3 years later, I said, "This man's a superstar, not just not a good player, but a
Right.
superstar." No, because what he can do, he's a big guy, and when we were playing, they didn't let big guys handle the ball. Is that right, Scott? I don't know. Maybe when you're going to
You
start
can put it
letting
on the floor more than twice.
no. They said, "Get the ball to a guard." They said, "Give it to somebody who can dribble."
Right.
You got guys, you got 7-footers bringing the ball up all the time now, but he can do something with it, not just dribble straight. He can do things with it. But he is one of my KD is my favorite player because
too.
I love KD, but the Greek Freak is a second. I mean, just everything about him. He's just a class act, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And to finish off the first part of the second part of what you had said there about these teams in the playoffs, you look at the Lakers, you look at the Golden State Warriors. These are teams that struggled over the course of the regular season, bringing Klay Thompson back, trying to work him back into form. Obviously, all the injuries the Lakers have, but here they are again. That experience, right, has got their teams on it, right on the cusp of advancing to the next round in the Western Conference, and that to me, it shows what the heart of a champion might be, the mentality of a guy that has won it all, that doesn't have to think that it doesn't matter that we're not 1, 2, or 3 going into the playoffs. It's just that we're in the playoffs and now we do what we do. And that's fun. That's fun for me to watch in the playoff time too, because I love the stars. I like Jokic, but I love Curry. I love James, Anthony Davis, KD that you mentioned. He's no offense, LeBron, but he's my favorite player in the league. I would pay if I didn't sneak into the games, I'd pay to go see KD play.
Oh, yeah.
So I really enjoy what the Suns are doing. But Jokic out in Denver, Jimmy buckets in Miami. You got that guys that just are clutch when it's this time of year and going into May and then into June.
Okay, now tell me what you think about. I hope Golden State can get past Sacramento, but because of us out here, we have never seen Sacramento too many times on television. I didn't believe how good some of these guys are on Sacramento's team.
I
You
didn't
know,
know a
they
whole lot about him. I knew about De'Aaron Fox. I did get a chance to watch him in college and thought he was going to get off to a better start than he did in Sacramento. I don't know if it was injuries or what, but then I kind of forgot about him until this year and he started balling. But Mike Brown, I had the privilege to, when I finished my final year in Cleveland, um, I went straight into broadcasting and did the Cavs game. So I was with LeBron for again his third and his fourth year, and Mike Brown was the head coach, and I knew what that guy can do to motivate and teach a team. He got them to the NBA Finals, and I know it's not surprising to me that they had no let off. Like everyone thought, oh, they got off to a nice start, but the rest of the league will catch up to them once they get to know the players and tendencies and everything. And he had this team right there on, at one of the top three teams in the NBA, having the Warriors down 2-0. Now, obviously, they've shown their championship medal in those last two ball games to tie it up. But I'm very impressed with Coach Brown and what he's been able to do with that squad. And, of course, the rest of the league has recognized him as the coach of the year as well.
well, do you think Golden State can pull it off?
I would think now there's a little more pressure on Sacramento, and how they respond to that pressure is yet to be seen by a younger style team. But the kids, was it Sabonis, the guy that they got in the middle there? He has proven to be unflappable. DeAndre Fox proves that no moment's too big for him. I think it's a 50-50. I'm not giving an edge to either squad one way or another. The Warriors have the experience, and I think right now the Sacramento Kings may have a little bit more live, fresh bodies on their side of the floor. So we'll see which will win out in the end.
We talked a little bit about how even now that they really ramped it up for the physicality and the effort level that goes into their play during the playoffs. You see it's way high level right now. Could you describe what it's like to be in the middle of a desperate championship level defense when everything is going down like that and the crowd's going crazy?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it's hard to recreate that in life outside of sports, right, Kermit? I mean,
Oh,
it's one of these adrenaline pumps, and I don't even know if it's adrenaline. It's adrenaline mixed with some X factor that I can't quite describe to anybody that's never put on a pair of high tops and an NBA jersey before. And I even experienced it probably more often on the road than I did at home, which is odd to say that you got your fans cheering for you. But something about being on the road, having to be a band of brothers, so to speak, as Phil Jackson was like, his circle, your tribe, he would always put his Indian tribalism into it. But there is something about that it gives you a sense of euphoria that is hard to create when you're having to lock in and battle and communicate, and those types of environments. It's the best ever. I write about it a little bit in my book, Through the Fire. Not to keep plugging my book, but there's
No. We're gonna be putting
I
that up.
had to flash the rings on there too. But it's hard, and being a first-time author, probably didn't do such a good job of making it plain how that is. But I do talk about like the birth of my children, my first child, Benjamin, that everyone told me it's going to be the greatest feeling in the world. And being a father has been the greatest thing that I've ever done in my life. Not winning championships, but being a father has been the greatest thing that I've done with my kids, Benjamin and Ava. But for a single moment, for those few hours out there on the NBA floor when so the proverbial bullets are flying and you're in the heat of the moment, there's nothing better than that. And especially if you want to throw a Game 7 scenario onto it. With Jordan, we didn't see that many in the finals, but the Eastern Conference against the Knicks playing Madison Square Garden, those types of things are pretty dang cool. And I've yet to find a place in the real world, so to speak, where it even compares.
you know what it is? It's like a drug, though, too, and it's like a habit. I mean, when you have that kind of game or that kind of experience, you you're afraid to go to sleep at night because you think when you wake up, it wasn't real. That doesn't real. And I try to tell people that what happens to us as athletes is nothing like competing at the highest level and at least being on a good team. I mean, or
Right.
playing well as an individual. It's nothing like it. And that's why so many guys, it's like a depression when your time is up. We've done that from the age of little kids till we're almost 30 some years old. And all of a sudden it comes to a grinding halt. And then you hear people say, well, he's starting a business, he's going to do good. It's nothing like playing the game of basketball, Scott. It's nothing. You can be making millions of dollars. That is not like going out there on the court, winning a big game, hitting a big shot, or being part of a great team.
I agree. I don't know if I could add anything additional to that. You summed it up perfectly. And I think that was the thing I missed the most, right? So I got it 3 years in a row, and it's almost like an addiction to a drug in a way because you want to experience it more. And then I go to Philadelphia, and I'm on these god awful teams. You win in 24 games in your season. You like literally you're eliminated from the playoffs the first part of March. And you're going
Just going through the motions after that, huh?
playing to the end of June. What do
Yeah.
I do now? And it is this major letdown. So when I had a chance to get traded out of Philadelphia and go to Milwaukee and work my way back from, was kind of a throw in to make the salaries work when I got traded there, and I had to work my way in the rotation, much like I had to in Chicago. I loved that again. And I thought this is a team that's going to get back to the NBA Finals. And I'm telling you, when I had an opportunity and I saw it kind of slipping away, I'm like, I got to start to set a tone here in game 6. We're about to get eliminated for the playoffs. I knocked Allen Iverson. I didn't just try to hit him hard. I tried to hit him knock him off the floor, because that's how important it was for me to set a tone for the guys that no more soft play inside. They are beating us inside. If we're going to win this game and keep our hopes of continuing our season, we got to play more physical with this team the way they're being physical with us. No more of these ticky-tack fouls. And I ended up getting suspended from game 7 as a result of it. But we
Oh,
did win game 6, Kermit. I want you to know that.
that's good. But you're right. I mean,
I tell everybody it was nothing personal against Allen Iverson. It
Right.
was literally I would have hit my auntie if she was driving the ball down the lane there trying to get 2 points too. Because
Yeah.
like you said, I wanted another taste of that moment in the
Yeah.
NBA Finals.
yeah, it's funny because you watch the game now and they throw guys out for like the simplest things. Like Harden, they say it was an elbow, they threw him out the game. Well, that's just getting space,
Yeah.
trying to get past something. But when you watch the old films, who was it? What the Boston Celtics did to Kurt Rambis. I mean,
Mikhail.
oh,
Mikhail clotheslined him.
yeah, close. I mean, stuff like that. And both of them, nobody got thrown out the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And then Bird and all those guys going at it, but see, that was a different game. But you know what?
Paul and Michael Jordan for years too in Chicago before they
Yeah.
before the Bulls finally got past the Pistons. But they'd have put Mahorn and Lambeer and
Oh,
some of those other cats, Rodman. They would just try to knock Michael Jordan down and physically try to injure him or hurt
yeah,
him
yeah.
to the point where he'd have to leave the game. I mean, not end his career, but he'd have to leave the game for a period of time so they gain an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know something. And Pippen got tougher too because for a while there they were intimidating Pippen, but then Pippen got to be quite a player. He came to Pete Mills' big man's camp as a rookie, and I knew right away he had talent. He had talent, but he came there unfortunately with the X-Man was coming there. You know how X-Man was always such a tough man, Xavier McDaniel. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
the Pete Mills Big Man's Camp was a huge. I start seeing how good some of these players were at a very young age and the toughness. But that was a different world back then. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays you can't touch a guy really, basically. But I was watching. Well, when I watch these games and you have a player that is hot, Scott, really hot. Well, I said, why do you let him catch the ball? If he's not a point guard, why do you let him catch the ball? Because when a guy's hot, you can't really check him. If he gets the ball, he's going to score. I mean, sometimes guys are so hot they're not good. So don't let him catch the ball. Like if I'm in Miami playing against Miami, I'm not going to let Butler catch it. If he catches, I'm throwing two people at him.
Yeah, Jimmy
I'm
Bucket,
going to say
he
two
can deliver.
because
That's what doesn't matter. Yeah, you'd
why,
have to
why
throw three
not?
guys
Why
at
not throw
Jimmy
two
sometimes.
people at him?
But
You know,
some of
let's
these
do
guys,
it.
they're so good. These coaches have designed some of these dribble handoffs and dribble weaves. Right? They get the guy the ball where he likes to get it. I give the coaching staffs a lot of credit. The athleticism of the players, the speed in which they play. I don't recognize myself even when I watch the YouTube videos. Be able to move as fast as some of these guys, these fours do, these threes and fours do nowadays. But Pippen's game, if I could real quickly, I got a chance to watch it blossom firsthand. I was there in Chicago when he was really good in 91 and 92. I mean, excellent. And then he went to the Dream Team and the Olympics in 1992 that summer. And he got a chance to play with Larry Bird and Clyde Drexler, of course, Michael and Stockton and Ewing and Karl Malone. And I think his confidence level, having performed well, and also his professionalism really exploded after that to make him the Hall of Fame player that he is today.
Yeah, yeah. I think Pippen is one of the best all-around players in the history of the game, where he could
Yeah.
handle the ball, he could score, he could play defense. He could do it all. And you know, I think Michael helped him to become the player that he was. Because Michael, if you can tell us that in Michael's he having Michael as a teammate, you don't want to let Michael down. And you want him to be, yeah, I know you're right. You want to be proud of him. You want him to be proud of you, respect you. And I think that's made Pippen work a little bit harder. What do you think, Scott?
I would agree. The best way I guess I can sum it up was the card games on the back of the plane. I think was talked a little bit about in The Last Dance. But Michael, he used those as a chance to let guys know I'm getting all the attention, but you guys are important to me, and I rely on you to be ready to be able to do your jobs at the same period without having to have that intensity on the floor. He's very crafty, MJ, because he was tough to be a teammate with, but having those lighter moments after he was done playing in the back of the plane, if he cleaned those guys out, or they cleaned them out, but he would come to the front of the plane and he would spend some time with guys like me and BJ and Stacey King and Will Perdue, and even John Paxson was up there playing cards with us, as he wanted us to know, in my opinion, that he was one of the guys, and that we can't do this unless we got buy-in from all 12 guys on the squad. So his leadership on the floor is legendary, but I think his ability to be able to connect with teammates in a lighter space was certainly been impressive as well.
Well, we know in '93, Pippen was still really on his ascension towards his peak, and then with all the circumstances surrounding Michael, he ends up leaving. If that doesn't happen, and you've added Kukoc, and you guys have your full roster of guys, I really think that would have been the best team ever at that point, and for sure you guys win a fourth championship, I mean, barring injury. What do you think about that?
I was just having this conversation. You guys remember my old teammate at North Carolina and Houston Rocket buddy of mine, Pete Chilcutt, who was on this. They did a two-peat or a repeat rather. So he was on the second team, and we got into it with Eldrick Kasner as well. But in my opinion, and I think it's the God's honest truth, with the experience that we had and the style of play that which we played. Well, Bill Cartwright played Akeem Olajuwon when Akeem had a great year in '94 too. He ends up winning the MVP award, and I think Scotty was either second or third right there. I thought we could have got a co-MVP that year. Then wasn't really a thing back then, but I think we would have played them well enough had we been in the finals, that we would have beat them without Jordan. And if you put Jordan on that squad, who I'm just going to tell you right now, just does not lose series. At that point in time as his career, he just did. I didn't know we were going to sweep every game or every series, but I knew we were going to win the series because the guy he would do whatever he needed to do, whether it was he scored 20, go 25, 12, and 8, or if it was going 55-5-5. So he just did whatever he needed to do to win the series. And if you just did your part, you did your bit, you were going to win. And I think that's what Houston would have ran into. They would have ran into that buzzsaw that said, no matter how well that they played, they just weren't going to be able to beat us. And that's the kind of message that Jordan sent to guys in the league, whether it was Ewing and New York or those Cleveland Cavalier teams that they had down there coaching by Lenny Wilkins, or the Utah Jazz or Seattle, Los Angeles, Portland. I think at the end of the day, MJ would just do whatever he needed to do. Those guys would realize we can't beat this dude. And that's, to me, the greatness of Michael Jordan. I don't know if we got fear in a player, but when you take a person's at that level and Hall of Famers spirit from them and their confidence from them, that's the sign of absolute greatness, because you don't get to the NBA without confidence. You don't become an all-star without confidence, and you certainly aren't an all-NBA or a Hall of Famer unless you have supreme confidence, and that's what Michael just snatched from those cats.
Yeah.
He was a top dog.
LeBron, as great as he is, does not do that. LeBron might beat you, but LeBron's not snatching anybody's confidence from them when they go at home at night and dream. They can't dream that they can even beat you in their sleep. That's what MJ did to guys.
Yeah.
They have you embarrassed when you got to go drive home with your girlfriend or your wife after a game, the way he just embarrassed you in front of your own fans in your own city. That's what MJ did on a nightly basis. No load management days, no sitting out because you had a sprained finger. That guy wanted every person in that arena, even the last person while I was sitting up there, no cheap seats, to know they just watched the greatest basketball player of all time. And he did that 82 games a year for years in a row.
Well, and then and at that point, my point is that if you do add him into that mix, as good as you guys were without him, that was at the height of his powers, peak Terminator level Michael Jordan, with all the athleticism, the bulked up guy, young, everything coming together.
He's perfect. He had it all going for him. And he had the confidence, right? He had the know-how on top of everything else that made him so brilliant. And it was just built different. But I write about it in my book, and I honestly believe it's one of my biggest regrets in the NBA after he lost his father, Mr. Jordan, who was so cool to have around the program, especially because he was a Carolina guy, and he'd always stop and have a word with me about a Tar Heel game or prospects for the next year. And when he lost his father that summer '93 to a murder situation, the carjacking, that I didn't reach out to him, and I guess I was triggered somewhat. I didn't know what to say. And because I know what it's like to have a parent taken from you. His situation a little different than mine, but I still know that trauma. And I'm glad for him, not so much for me and the Bulls, but for him that he took that time away to deal with that, because he couldn't have done it during the course of a regular season. You need time to grieve, and you need some space. And the mega wattage that was on him all the time, he wasn't going to be able to find that with all the demands that were on him at the NBA coming off a third championship. So it worked out good for him. I think that he needed that space, time to grieve, time to heal up a little bit. Remember the love for the game that he had, because I know he had said that there was nothing more for him to prove, but it was the passion in which he played the game that I knew that was still within him. And I knew that was never going to be extinguished. So I'm happy for Michael that he was cognizant of his mental health before mental health was really a big thing, because back in the day, and then 30 years ago, it was a sign of weakness to talk about mental health and needing to get help or having time away to deal with trauma. And I'm glad he did what he needed to do, obviously, to come back. We'll never see a guy win 3 championships, step out of the league for 2 years and come back and win 3 more championships. Not going to happen in my next 25 years.
I agree. I agree with you. And the thing is, it's good, to step away, but then you realize what your love is. For Michael, it wasn't to make money. It wasn't to make money for Magic. It wasn't to make a lot of money for Bird. They wanted to be the very best. And as basketball players, they wanted to dominate. And so people say, well, they're doing good. They're doing this. You ask Magic and all them when they were playing, well, do you really care about how much money you're making? as long as they could pay their bills. No, they wanted to be the very best. And if you are the very best, money will follow. The same thing. It just, we need that. That's who we are. As long as we can still play well. And to me, that was the greatest thing in the world when Michael walked away and Michael came back and went into New York. I don't know if you were on that team. Came back 2 games and hit 50 points. Now that's unreal. That's unreal.
Yeah, legendary for sure. And sometimes I think I stayed that one year, the 93-94 season. I said we were very good, but the Knicks took us down in the playoffs. Bad call, in my opinion. Phantom call on Scottie Pippen fell and Hubert Davis, my old teammate, and the coach of North Carolina. I always joke to you every time I see him about that. Come on, Hubert, you know you didn't get fouled. But anyway, I think that those types of things just add to the legend, right? So it's so cool to have been a part of all that. And I had my kids towards the end of my career. They would always ask me, Daddy, why does that person want your autograph, or why do he want to shake your hand? When we were running around Scottsdale out here so far from Chicago. And when The Last Dance came on, they finally started to get it. We're much older now. They finally started to get how special that group was. That was a symbol, because they didn't just talk about the 6th championship. They went all the way back to the 1st championship, and him at Carolina, where I went to school. And I've been talking about Carolina. I've got my kids brainwashed about being Tar Heel fans and Bulls fans. Although my son's a huge Bucks fan. He's an Antetokounmpo guy, but also Suns. He grew up out here. But even my daughter, she's probably more into basketball than probably my son is now. But those were special moments, and they started to get that now, right? Like, they didn't understand it before. But there's not a day goes by when I'm out running around town, running errands, I don't meet somebody from the Midwest, and they might be a Pistons fan and talk about those matchups, or a Knicks fan, someone going back east. And it's pretty darn cool if someone says, "Hey, champ," that's stuff. Like you said, I was making minimum contracts most of my career. I obviously wasn't playing for the money. That was nice to get those checks, no doubt about it. But I played for the love of the game, truly. And I wish more guys had that same buy. And you see it in a select few guys. You can tell by the twinkle in eye, and that's that bounce in their step. But for the most part, you wonder if guys aren't more worried about their Q rating than they are about winning a championship.
Yeah. You know what, though? I have to say, first of all, I want people to understand, what are you doing now? And then we're going to hit on your book real quick. What are you doing with yourself as a profession?
Yeah, well, after I retired, obviously, like a lot of people, you want to start your own business. So I started my own business called Anytime Media and Security. We specialize in automation and IT security, home security, camera work. We do pretty much everything that you would need to listen to, watch, and protect your home or your business. It's kind of how we we're a one-stop shop. But it still left me wanting to do something in basketball. So I started broadcasting here at Grand Canyon University, Lopes Up, and we're very proud that we made the NC2A tournament for the second time in 3 years this year. Actually had to go up against the Zags this year, so that was a tough first round matchup for us. Yeah. But they played pretty good for the first half, and then the big boys stepped on them in the second half. And then during the lockout, where we had no sports, The Last Dance came out, and I got to reconnect with some of my teammates. And we on podcasts like this one talking about the old times. And I started putting some of the stories on Facebook. And I had a couple of people reach out and said, "Why don't you do a biography?" I don't even know how to spell author. I kind of laughed at that. But by happenstance, a guy by the name of Ben Guest, who was writing a book, contacted me to help him with some of the basketball terminology and philosophies. And I said, "Well, I'll help you with your book if you help me write a book I want to do on the Bulls." And so we started that, and he goes, "Scotty, this is nice, but what happened before your time in the Bulls, your time in North Carolina, in your time in high school, growing up?" And kind of had to take a step back, because those were some traumatic experiences for me. That's where I had to get real and I get raw about how I grew up with the verbal and physical abuse and domestic violence, and how everything looked good from the outside growing up in a suburban. Kermit, you remember my house there, 2-story home with 3-car garage, and
I came there.
Fireplace and a jacuzzi in the backyard, right? So from the outside, everything looked really very normal. My dad was assistant coach of some of my little league baseball teams, and mom was on a PTA, and it was just kind of that terror when at home when people return to their houses. That's where life got tough for me, my brother, and my mother. And my brother probably even more so than me. The verbal abuse, I think, is every bit as devastating at a young age to a child than the physical abuse is. So I talk about it all. I get real with it, and nights of putting pots and pans in front of my bedroom door that opened in so they would make noise and wake me if my father tried to come into my room. All sorts of things of having to sneak out of the house for fear of being beaten, and hiding in my neighbors. I was watering their plants, and hiding in their living room, waiting for my mom to come home. It'd be safe to maybe come back down the house, down the block. So it took a while to get it out. I had to put it down a lot during the holidays, so I didn't want to deal with those negative emotions, but it was also therapeutic in a way. So I'm real proud of it. It's a good read. Getting all 5-star reviews so far at Amazon.
Let's see it again. Let's see the book.
That's good. You can find it on Amazon.com. Comes in Kindle paperback, hardcover.
Show us the book. Pick it up.
Yeah, here's the cover. That's me in my Bulls uniform, my 3 championship rings. I don't know if you can see. Ben Scott.
Yeah, we can see it. That's nice.
So, but more importantly than anything else, I've partnered with 2 domestic violence centers, one here in Phoenix called Chrysalis, and one in Chapel Hill. That was a place that was very near to and dear to my mother, and obviously Coach Dean Smith, who really looked out for me for those 3 years in college, and even on past that once I got into the league. But the Compass Center right there off of Franklin Street, just a block from the university. So I'm really proud to work with them. I had my first book signing 2 weeks ago, Saturday on the 15th. And
where is it going to be?
I want to thank the community of Chapel Hill in the state of North Carolina. I had people drive from 3 hours away and wait in line. And I signed as fast as I could nonstop for 3 hours until I started I developed a blister on my hand. But and the line had thinned out by that point because everyone was going to the blue-white football game. But I think the community of Chapel Hill, I partnered with Chapel Hill Sportswear. I want to give them a plug because they gave 10% of the proceeds from their merchandise sale to the Compass Center as well. I'm looking to try to do some more of that, some speaking engagements. There's so many kids today on both college campuses and high schools that are having to deal with trauma. They don't know how to deal with it. They start hurting themselves or taking their lives. So bringing awareness to a situation that 1 in 20 people are affected every minute, but in some way.
Probably more than that, Scott.
Could be, yeah. There might be conservative statistics, but by either physical or verbal abuse. So 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will be a victim or know somebody that's a victim. 1 in 7 men. So listen, I'm not got a huge platform, but I figure every drop in the bucket. And every time I can get on a pod like yourselves, the 2020, then we're raising awareness and doing some good. So that's the most important part of this. And I hope that Coach Smith and my mom be looking down on me, proud of what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, first of all, we want
sure.
to thank you for coming. Coming on,
Yeah.
and it was a pleasure. I mean, you've done a tremendous job with your life, and you have such a great positive attitude about everything. So I hope your book will be successful because you have insights probably in your book that nobody else can talk about because it's from your view, not somebody else's view about the Chicago Bulls. I think I'm gonna get it. I guarantee you, I'll be one of the buyers of your book.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Next time you call, I'll be able to hold it up and prove that I bought your book.
You can quiz them on it.
I'm gonna count on you guys for 5-star review on Amazon. No one's given me a 4-star yet, so don't break my trend.
Okay.
All right.
And I thank you for your support.
Yeah.
And time.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we really appreciate you.
Domestic violence. So.
You take care of yourself.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Thank you very much.
It, guys. Go Suns. I want to see my Suns all the way to the NBA Finals this year.
Love me, baby. I feel so good 'cause you know just how to love me, baby. You know just how to put it